Hey guys, Gemma from ASD Rocks. I want to talk to you today because a huge number of people have contacted me recently specifically about violence, their ASD and violent meltdowns. Now, the majority of these violent outbursts are either violence towards themselves or violence towards the carer, parent or sibling. It's rarely violence outside of the house. So that indicates that the behaviour is a controlled behaviour in some ways. I've been trying to do this post for ages and I keep deleting it because it's a really difficult subject to express. It's really easy to address, but it's really difficult for me to explain how to get the best results. So there's a number of things that we need to do in order to resolve a violence issue. So number one, okay, it's always difficult. This is always the difficult part, which part to put number one, number two. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, but I have to say it in an order that you're going to understand. Number one, I think you need to sit down with the child. Now, in the examples that I've been given, the children are verbal. Some of them are fairly high functioning. Obviously, I think for this particular instance, I'm going to address the kids that have receptive, comprehensive understanding, because the action we take with kids who are violent that are completely non-verbal is a different tap. So let's talk about what we do with the higher functioning kids. Now, hopefully they're not too old. So the reason that we need to deal with violence really early is because the earlier that you deal with this, the easier it is to physically deal with. As they get to 9, 10, 11, and they're getting physically bigger, it is physically harder to deal with the violence. So we want to sort of target the violence well under that age. Okay, the number one thing that we want to do is sit down with that child and with a calendar. It's very similar to targeting food. In fact, it's very similar with all the tactics and goals that you want to take with your kids. Sit down, involve them, pick a date. And the day can be tomorrow. It doesn't have to be, in a week's time. But pick a date and say, as of this date, there are going to be consequences to violence, physical violence. Give them an alternative. I will be only listening to words. I will only use your words. They are stronger and more powerful than violent actions. So, in some of the instances that this has been expressed to me, the children are having meltdowns because they want something that they're obsessing over. It's not there, they don't have it now, so they become violent. You need a specific timeout room. That's number one. Now, I've always suggested the laundry. I love the laundry. I love the laundry because I hate the laundry. The laundry is a great timeout room. So there's a number of things. I would set up and prepare the laundry. I would also take the child in to look at the laundry once you've set it up and prepared it. So depending on how violent your child is, what you want to do is pop moving boxes, duct tape moving boxes to the walls. They can kick and punch to their absolute delight, and it's not going to damage your walls, and if it does, it's in the laundry No one's going in there except for you, really. So it's not a big deal. There are other things that you can use that have been really helpful, including that material they use to soundproof studios. You can buy it, I mean, here you can buy it from just, there's a place called Clark Rubber, and you can get basically any materials, any rubber materials or insulating materials from there. I'm sure there's a place all around the world where you can go and get, not expensive, but that foam, that soft foam, soundproofing kind of foam that you can put up on the walls, depending on how big the kid is. Again, hopefully the kid isn't too big, so we're not dealing with going too high. Show the room to them and say, from now on, the consequence of violence is going to be, you go into this room. Here is a timer, get a timer. You are going to have 10 minutes, whatever it is, 20 minutes, however long you feel, will be usable. Now, when I say usable, that's a really important point, because there is a crossover time between learning from your reactions and the consequences to just getting frustrated again. So you might find that putting them in there for 3 minutes is enough, because it's cause and effect. They're seeing violence, time out room, and they stop. Bo used to, when he was nonverbal, have the most horrific meltdowns. They were, he would scream until he vomited and then eventually passed out. So the tacts that we take for our nonverbal and very young children are different to the tacts that we take for, now, they don't necessarily need to be verbal, they need to be comprehending. And those are two separate things. There are a lot of kids that I see that are nonverbal for a number of reasons. Some have gotten used to PECs and it's just easier. PECs are those little pictures, and it's easier. It's easier. They don't want to put the effort into learning to talk because they've gotten so used to all of the things that have been put into place for them. Others are not talking, but they are still understanding. So it's about that comprehension. And that's what I talk about when I say nonverbal and younger. I mean comprehensive. So sit down, organize the day that it's going to be happening, so they are aware that things are going to change from now on. That is really important. Then from there, once you've set that date and you've set up the room and you've shown them the room and that date comes, everything changes. What you need to do, if they do have a violent meltdown or go to, you know, if you see them, you have to stop it as soon as you see it or hear the trigger. If you see them go back to do it, don't wait till it gets to the height of violence, because then you're going to be physically trying to move a child who is in the throes of a violent tantrum. So we want to get there straight away. And what we want to do is we want to name the emotion they're feeling. So what was the trigger? Was it anxiety? Is it frustration? Do they need help? What was it that caused the problem in the first place? So you need to name the emotion so that they can relate what emotion they're feeling with a word, right? So, and then you remove them. Now, removing the child does not mean directly into the timeout room, right? Removing the child means getting them away from whatever it is that caused that trigger. So, is something not working? For example, they're trying to do something, it usually works. Our ASD kids are very OCD in a lot of ways. When they do something and it doesn't work, but it worked the first time, it will cause much more of an emotional meltdown than with our typical children. So what we want to do is, if, for example, it is not working and they're frustrated, we want to say, As we walk up to them, as soon as we hear or see them starting to react, we say angry, walk away, and we take them away, so that they learn to remove themselves as young adults or young children or older children from what is causing them these emotional triggers at an early stage. Intervene very early. If, for example, it's a trigger that sets off anxiety, it's a sensory trigger or too bright or whatever it happens to be, and you should know these things as parents or carers. You should know exactly why these kids are having these meltdowns. They shouldn't be a mystery to you at all. So if it's a trigger, for example, anxiety because something is not the way it should be, for example, they've come home and something's in a different place or whatever it happens to be, name it. Anxiety, do the physical action, walk away. If you want to add a third action, breathe, okay? Go and fix whatever it is. Teach them to walk away from that trigger, but teach them the feeling they're feeling. Anxiety, angry, frustrated. Label it and then take action, walk away, remove them from that. Now, if you've gotten there too late, that's what the laundry room is for. Eventually you can start saying to them, use your words, tell me what's happening, and they will be able to express to you, I'm angry, I have anxiety, or they'll say one word that doesn't have to be I am. That comes further down the track. So we label the emotion, we create a resulting action, which is the walking away, and then we have the calm down. Okay, so if it's violence towards a sibling, guys, with siblings, we really, really need to keep our eyes open all the time. Our siblings cannot be the victims of violence. However, they also do have a tendency to provoke in some cases, depending on how old the child is. You have to be on top of that, and yes, it means you have to be a hawk. If you want to get on top of violent behavior, it means you have to sit there, you have to be around, you have to be present. You need your kids near, you have to intervene. You are the judge, the jury, the executioner, and they need to know that. And the sibling needs to know that too, that you're there for them to protect them, but you won't take any crap either because you see all. So you really need to make sure that you're judging all of this absolutely to who is provoking and who is getting a response. So name the emotion, create a solution and a better outcome. If you are in the middle of, if it continues to go and they are not responding to removing the trigger, or if it is simply a matter of they have learned that kicking up and violence is what gets what they want, that's when the laundry comes in. Okay, so now we are no longer talking about early stages of trigger. We're not talking about a kid that is responding to these things. We are talking about a child that has been conditioned to learn that you will let it go until they get violent. And that is a different thing altogether. That's where the laundry really comes in handy, because that's not a kid that's going to listen to, they've got learned behavior. They're not going to listen to you saying stop, use your words. Now, you need to still say that. You need to still say use your words. I had a situation about a week or two ago with a mother who I was helping out, and we had results. Her child was what we would call high functioning, not too old, but still way older than should have been, was around 9, and we had results within 24 hours of settling that violent behavior down, just because She did exactly as I said. She started immediately the next day. She sat down with her child and she said, I'm no longer tolerating the violence. He was verbal, he was receptive. And she said, as soon as he started to kick off, she would say, use your words, and he would speak. Sometimes it's as easy as that. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it goes down to the laundry, and that's where we have to go, and that's what it is. But you have to change your behavior for them to change their behavior. I really hope this helped. Keep firing the questions at me. I think this is probably, out of the ones that I've done like over the last 4 or 5 days of trying to get a how to stop violent behaviors out, this is probably the best one I've done, and I will post this one. So ASD rocks, guys, and keep sending me these questions because I'm loving helping you. All right, bye.